After the end of World War II, the world was split into two, East and West. This marked the beginning of the era called the Cold War.
Shortly after World War II and at the start of the nuclear age in 1947 was the beginning of a war that lasted 44 years. Even though the tension of the conflict was between the United States and Russia, the battles that were involved in this war did not take place on either country's homeland. The countries that these battles did take place on were well known to be Vietnam and Korea. Like, this violence was not allowed in the two countries that were causing this violence. I mean, hell, look at how Cuba was used during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Cuba used as an extension of the Soviet Union to cause conflict in the United States. So many individuals and groups of people were used for the sides of both countries. The United States was no less guilty than the Soviet Union itself. Overthrowing governments for strategic reasons were not shy actions for either governments. Of how there were no right sides in war, exceptions like World War II or the Civil War, Nazis in the South were definitely the wrong side, 100%.
Well, it's our heritage. It lasted 5 years. The Annoying Orange has existed longer than the Confederacy did. The fucking Annoying Orange, dude. You're gonna celebrate a nation so fucking weak the Annoying Orange outlived it?
Wars involve killing people, you know? And I think that's pretty despicable to do for the interests of governments that are usually seated in money or other selfish endeavors. We all know war is a business. I learned that when I was like 2 years old when I saw Iron Man for the first time.
Yeah, peace. I love peace. I'll be out of a job with peace.
And I feel like all of that stuff and more is represented pretty well in Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
Silence through the night. What a thrill. I'm searching and I'll melt into you. What a fear in my heart, but you're so supreme.
Snake Eater is my all-time favorite game, and I've played a lot of games. I took 30 minutes out of my day to try and list every game I've ever played in that time frame, and this is what I got. So there's probably way more that I forgot to mention. So out of all of these games, this is my favorite. That's because this game is raw. Yeah, this man just spinned his revolvers so fast that he's killing swarms of bees with them. Okay, this game might be really goofy, but it has serious themes. Trust me, guys.
Now you will know the sorrow of those whose lives you have ended.
Before I talk about those things, give me some time to give my appreciation to everything else this game does perfectly first. This is a Hideo Kojima game, back when he was a god that he could do nothing wrong, until, it came out. But let's ignore that catastrophe. It's what I try to do every day. Snake Eater was a revolutionary game, in my opinion. It was one of the first third-person shooters, a genre that dominates today's gaming scene with games like Red Dead 2, The Last of Us 2, and Resident Evil 2. Snake Eater and Resident Evil 4 built the foundation for third-person shooters, which kind of explains why the gameplay in these two games are kind of clunky compared to their infinitely more refined successors, because, you know, they were the first of their kind. Honestly, these two games share a lot of similarities. Both are highly respected early third-person shooters where you can kill every single animal you can find and eat it. Also, they are goofy as fuck.
You do us all a favor and leave before the audience gets pissed off.
Now, I'm not the type of guy to say modern gaming has gone to shit. I think it's a very complicated issue that I will make a video about. It's already in the works, but I will say games back then were definitely a different breed. So many hidden mechanics and uniqueness and just a lot of uncorporate passion put into these games. When I was replaying the game for this video, I realized if you don't play the game for too many days, all of your captured animals and food will be rotten when you come back. Like, what a little nugget of detail to put into this game just because they wanted to, just for the fun of it. Back when shit like DLC and microtransactions were non-existent. Back when developers made sure a game was finished and polished before released, instead of now where games can be published with all types of problems and bugs and they can just have the excuse that it will be patched in future updates. You couldn't change the time in Spider-Man 2 until 6 months later after it came out. That was a day one feature with Spider-Man PS4 and Spider-Man Miles Morales, bro. Why was Spider-Man 2 so rushed that they couldn't put that feature in? And also, do you guys remember Cyberpunk 2077's launch day? Metal Gear Solid 3 is just a full, great experience from day one. Since Resident Evil 4 just got a remake, that was a great, full experience from day one. And since Snake Eater is about to get a remake too, I wanted to make this video showing how much this remake has to live up to. I swear to God, Konami, if you screw this up, I'm gonna blow up the moon. But something that I think the remake wouldn't really ruin unless they really tried to is the story, which I'm going to be gushing about for the rest of the video. This game's narrative rocks. It's about love and sacrifice. If dedication to your comrades is more important than the dedication to your country, if your country is even on the right side to be fighting for, what are we supposed to do when both sides of the world are fundamentally wrong from the inside out? For since before we were even born, where we as individuals are so small that we can do nothing to stop it. Snake Eater starts out with this special ops soldier named Jack, codenamed later to Snake. He's on a secret mission to get this Russian scientist out of the Russian jungle. Yeah, I can't really defend that. There are no jungles in Russia. Anywho, the background on this guy was he's a guy who was helping Russia with nuclear missiles, and he defected from Russia to the US because he didn't want to start World War III. So Snake's here to pick him up. There's something here I really like. The fact this guy isn't some evil, lame dickhead who wants to blow up the US, and instead he was manipulated into committing these acts, and how he wants to do good by trying to ruin the project. That's more realistic than just, you know, I'm German and I want to fucking kill everyone, you know? Like, what the fuck, bro? What was the project, you ask? The project was making a tank that can fire nukes. And I know that sounds like the dumbest thing you've ever heard, but hear me out, okay? The reason why they're putting nukes on this tank is because the speed of this tank can generate in combination with firing the nuclear missile will not be detected on any country's nuclear radars. So, phantom nukes, to be simple about it. Throughout this whole mission, Snake's boss, the boss, that's her name, is telling him about how it's a good thing that soldiers like them are just tools for their country and to serve without question or thought. Snake's just like, yeah, okay, makes sense. But right before he can escape, the boss stops them because it turns out she's defecting to Russia and she just throwed everything she just told Snake out the window, including him. So Snake has to go back to the USA, and the US is just like, yeah, we're gonna send you back, but if you fail, we're gonna straight up kill you, bro. We're throwing you under the rug at this point. We can't start another war. So Snake goes back. I'm gonna use Donkey's video to explain real quick the basic gist of what happens.
Eliminating Colonel Volgin, who has lightning powers, and eliminating the boss, who he is in love with, and he has to steal a secret microfilm that is worth $100 billion. He teams up with a woman called Eva, also known as Tatiana, also known as Matka Pluku, also known as Big Mama, who is Solid Snake's mother, who in a shocking twist is actually revealed to be a double agent working for China, and she steals the microfilm, but it was a fake.
I know that was a little confusing, so I'm going to use some aspects of what was just shown and why they elevate this game so much. Honestly, I like that this shit is complicated, because this shit is complicated in real life. Like, look at the actual Cold War timeline. I don't even know half of the things on here from the top of my head. And this is like actual history. So I think the Metal Gear Solid franchise, a series focused on how governments and wars suck, is confusing, makes sense. You see, the boss's true mission was to get the microfilm that would have fucked up the US. So, she was a double agent so she could get close to Volgin because he had it. But then, he fired a nuke to frame the US for attacking Russia, and since that caught the United States off guard, that changed the boss's mission to be a scapegoat for the Cold War, and to be killed by Snake, shifting every place of blame from the US onto her.
Everything she did for her country. She sacrificed her life and her honor for her native land. She was a real hero. She was a true patriot.
Snake is understandably pissed off, so he quits being a pawn for the States and decides to form a mercenary group that will provide military power to any nation that actually needs it. No secret agendas or motives involved, at least until the next game happens, but you know, that can be a future video. This shit happens all the time in history. The FBI definitely killed Martin Luther King.
For few years, the King family fought vehemently for James Earl Ray to get a retrial. And in 1999, Coretta King, the wife of Martin Luther King, along with her family, sued Lloyd Jowers, which I'll explain who he is in a little bit, along with the entirety of the federal government for committing a conspiracy to murder MLK, to which, as I mentioned earlier, they won the case.
I'm sorry, dude. The US and just a lot of other countries in general will fuck you up to further their agenda. That's just the way it's always been. I feel there's more hate than deserved when it comes to cops and soldiers. Okay, before you hate, hear me out. I feel more of the hate needs to go to their superiors that either order awful behavior or encourage it. When cops and soldiers commit heinous acts like hate crimes or killing innocent civilians of the enemy countries, I feel like the actual people on the field can be good, but sometimes the systems these officers operate in want them to discriminate or slaughter. Of course, it can go the other way where cops and soldiers can be abusing their power all on their own accord, but I think it's a little more complex than a lot of people make it out to be. Don't get me wrong, I do kinda hate cops and soldiers a whole lot, but after being taken care of in my first rehab by a lot of staff who used to be in the army and who were super nice, does make me think differently. Also, something involving the police did happen to some people close to me, and they were all super nice to them, and that made me reevaluate my ideas on cops as a whole. Also, sorry I've been late with the videos lately. A lot of stuff's been happening in my personal life, so yeah. Okay, boy.